Disaster relief organizations such as FEMA in the United States have perhaps unsurprisingly looked into disaster preparedness. For our purposes, disaster is being defined as a situation or a set of circumstances, either man-made or natural, so severe that absent rescue or relief, there's a high probability of harm, up to and including death. The results of the disaster preparedness research by FEMA and other relief organizations found that survivors of disasters may need to wait for up to 3 days before rescue or relief may arrive. And this led to their recommendation to members of the public to put together what they call a 72-hour bag, sometimes more commonly referred to as a bug-out bag or a go bag or a get-home bag. Whatever you choose to call it, it is essentially a portable bag that you can take with you in the event of a disaster or an evacuation, in which there are resources available to you to help you to manage to look after yourself and perhaps a few family members as well for a period of at least 3 days, hence 72-hour bag. In this series, we're going to look at the individual components of such a bag, with a view towards helping those of you looking to assemble a 72-hour or bug-out bag in making better and more informed choices about the kit you choose to put in it. Tools allow us to manipulate our environment, either by repairing or manufacturing things we need in order to maintain and improve the quality of our lives. Now, you may well have tools at home relating to home repair. You may well have tools in your vehicle relating to vehicle repair. And you may well have other tools relating to, for example, you might have a workshop in which you make various things. If we're talking about a 72-hour bag, a bug-out bag, you should also have tools in that. And specifically, tools which are used to manipulate the environment you might be in under primitive circumstances in the event of an evacuation. So we're talking about essentially bushcraft style tools because that's what's most likely to be useful in your bag. Now in this and the next few episodes, we're going to look at different kinds of tools, and we'll look at a few examples of each sort that you might find useful. I'm not going to tell you which tool is going to be best for you, but I'll just show you a few examples of each category, and then you can decide what's available to you in your local area and what is in your area most likely to be relevant in your situation. But hopefully this will get you started. In today's episode, saws. Stay tuned. So here I have half a dozen examples of suitable saws for your kit. They're all portable. They are generally made either for gardening or for bushcraft, and they will stow away, taking up very little space or weight, and will allow you to process wood. Now you can have some saws, for example, which will also cut metal. So you could include a hacksaw. Certainly with this one, and this is actually a collapsible buck saw, and you can get this version which also has a metal cutting hacksaw style blade. The rest of these are all wood cutting blades, although again with the Swiss Army knife you can also get hacksaw blades on those as well. But we're really going to focus on wood saws today because we're thinking in terms of actually processing wood for your fire, which if you are in an evacuation scenario, if you are in a camping style scenario where you are not in an accommodated shelter where there is heating available, you may well need to process firewood, and that could be of extraordinary importance. So these are all wood saws, and we're going to have a closer look at them individually. I think we'll start off with the buck saw. So this style of buck saw is relatively easy to use. You have two knurled ends on either side, which allow you to unscrew one. And then we set that portion aside for a moment. We have two outer portions. On the other end of the knurled one is a rod with threading, the other outer portion. And then we have, in this case, just one blade. There are some that have multiple blades, including hacksaw blades, which, again, you can find these online, so that might be something of interest. But this is a proper wood cutting saw, and I've used this particular one in the field on numerous occasions. And you have this rod here. So the way it sets up, if I place the blade in the slot on one side here, and on the other side, I begin to form something of a handle. Now, what I will do is also put this bar into its slot, and as you can see, it's starting to take shape without too much difficulty. If I take this rod and place it through its hole, going all the way through, and again through that, we now have the threading appearing here, and I'm going to screw this on. And once you, best if you're not doing it for the camera and paying attention to what you're doing, but if we put this together like so, and actually have it this way up so that the blade won't fall out, we can tighten the threads quite easily. Once it's tightened, it works like any other buck saw, because as this portion is pulled, it spreads that portion which locks the blade in place, giving you a good, firm, either one or two-handed stroke for cutting wood. I've used this particular saw on numerous camping trips, and it goes through wood very efficiently. So this is one that I would certainly recommend, because everything sharp, first of all, is normally self-contained within these tubes, and you can get a version of this with multiple blades so that you can have wood cutting for different kinds of wood, for hardwood, for softwood, for wet wood, dry wood, and you can also get hacksaw blades for this sort of thing. So this has some real versatility to it. The next saw we're going to look at is very much something you would get from a garden center, and indeed that's where this one came from. This does have a sheath with a belt loop, so you can actually wear it externally. And this can be placed in the sheath either right-handed as it is here, or if we flip that over, in a left-handed configuration. So your being right or left-handed needn't be much of an issue. Again, this is a garden center, sort of a garden shop style saw used for pruning, but in the field this would be an incredibly effective tool for processing firewood. Now, there is something you need to recognize about the teeth of this, and we'll try and let you get a closer look. As you can see, the teeth draw backwards slightly. That means this is a pull saw. So this is very flexible, and if you get caught in wood and it binds up, you can actually have issues. The nice thing about a blade like this is that the power stroke is the pull rather than the push. So if it does bind a bit, it pulls it straight and it doesn't deform the metal, which can lead to metal fatigue and other issues. So the forward moving stroke is relatively gentle because you're just trying to position the blade in the wood, and it is the pull stroke that actually does the serious cutting. And this is a very effective tool. In the same vein, we're now going to have a look at this tool. Now this is again something you can find either online or in garden centers, and it is there are a lot of these. They come from China and Japan. This one I think comes from China off the top of my head, but it is, again, it has that slight raking backwards. This is about 7 1/4 inches or about 18 millimeters, so it's a good, reasonable size. And this, again, is a pull saw, so it is the pull stroke that does the heavy cutting. This is a very lightweight, flexible blade. A lot of people are afraid of these, and if it was a push saw, you'd have good reason to be afraid of it. But as a pull saw, as again, the power stroke is on the pull. You should be pushing forward relatively gently, not jamming it in there. So if it does get a little bit hooked up, you can just loosen it, reposition it, and then again, on the pull, that's when it's going to cut. So again, this one I've used many times. It cuts like a hot knife through butter when you're going on wood with this. And it does actually, because the teeth are a little bit smaller, it gives quite a fine cut. And again, with this kind of saw, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a sort of a zigzag. So the teeth slightly alternate, which prevents too much wood particulate matter from building up between the teeth so that it will continue to cut very efficiently. And again, it's very easy to put down as well. On the slightly more tactical end, a lot of camping shops sell things like this. This is the Miltech. It weighs a little bit, they're about the same size. This one, with the wooden handle, is a little bit lighter. This is metal and rubber, and it weighs a bit more, and I have a lock here to unlock it. This is again, the Miltech. One thing you'll notice if you look at the teeth is they're more of an equilateral triangle. So this will cut on the push or the pull. I prefer a saw blade to cut on the push or the pull, but there are a number of blades like this which go either way. As a result, they have made this a slightly more heavy-duty metal, but again, it's made the whole instrument a little bit heavier, and obviously, if you're carrying the weight, that might matter to you. Again, this is something that a lot of people who like the tactical gear might go for. It is one with a good reputation, but it is, again, a little bit heavier. A little bit more similar to that first one I showed you. This is an Alpino. Now, they're more famous for making knives. This is the number 12 Alpino. It has a rotating bezel here which locks or unlocks your blade. And this one is the Alpino Saw, number 12. The numbers with the Alpinos refer to the size. So this is, I think it's about 5 inches, something like that. Again, this one cuts on the pull. It does work quite well. It's a little bit shorter, so there's a lot more work involved when you're having to do a shorter stroke, but it works extremely well. You'll notice there's a little bit of wood particulate matter in there from where I've used it in the past. It works quite well. It's very light. It's very portable. It'll easily fit in a pocket. And it does lock in this open position. And if you rotate the bezel, you can then close it. And then you can lock it closed so it doesn't accidentally open. Not a bad little bit of kit. And certainly, if you're going to have more than one saw, this could make a good backup. Another way of having a good backup, I will do last but not least, is with the Swiss Army knives. Now, this particular one has, again, a saw blade. And again, you have that double row of teeth, like a lot of these do. And if you look, you'll see again, we're talking about an equilateral triangle. So this cuts on the pull and the push. I have to say, I found that these do not work as efficiently as something like a pull. If I had to choose, for example, between the Swiss Army knife style saw and something like the Alpino, this is a pull blade. It's going to work more efficiently than a push-pull. Push-pull, it sounds like it'll work more efficiently. In fact, it's a bit more hard work involved, and that's simply the way that it is. However, what's really nice about this is it does give you a knife, it does give you scissors, it gives you a number of different things, and some of the Swiss Army knives, again, have actually got a metal cutting blade. They have, this particular blade here is designed explicitly for cutting through wood, this sort of thing. Some of them have a hacksaw blade as well, which will cut through metal, which might give you a little bit more versatility, so that's not a bad thing. And having such a tool as this as your backup is not a bad idea. Remember the old saying, 2 is 1, 1 is none. But any one of these would be appropriate. Now, obviously, part of it is personal taste. I mean, honestly, when I go camping, this is my go-to. I really like the buck saw. I just find that it works so well. This particular one, because of the very wide open teeth that is typical of this kind of saw, which you can get a better look at it like that, particularly on fresh wood, or if I find a tree that has died and fallen over and I'm taking branches from it or sections of it for firewood, this is great. And for my backup, this is my go-to for a backup because it just works so well. They don't weigh very much. They're very compact. They take up very little space. If I happen to have something like this with me as well, so that I have a third saw blade or even a fourth, again, if I have the Alpino with me, I mean, I'm not advocating carrying half a dozen saws. Don't misunderstand me. But having one as a primary and at least one other as a backup, and if you have something like some kind of multi-tool, such as a Swiss Army knife that may also have a wood saw blade, giving you a third backup, it just, you have redundancy, and should something go wrong, like a saw blade breaking, which can happen, if it gets deformed, if it just snaps, if it loses its sharpness so it stops cutting so efficiently. If you're doing it for fun, it may not matter so much. If you're doing it in a life or death situation, it may make all the difference in the world. So having a little bit of built-in redundancy is a good thing. So I would aim for that. Again, I'm not telling you which one to get, and you might actually have a model of saw that you prefer. If you do, please tell me in the comments. I'd be very interested to learn about it. But any one of these or one like these, and some of them are expensive and some of them are just not. Most of them are not. So it's not like it's a hard thing to do. I mean, you can actually go to a garden center, to a supermarket even. Sometimes they'll have gardening supplies, and little saws might be one of the things they carry. I've even seen them in pound shops, which is the English equivalent of a dollar store. Some little small garden saw that folds or something might not necessarily be expensive. Might only cost you $5 or $10. Some will cost considerably more. These tactical ones are expensive. They are well made. I don't object to them. I don't normally carry this one. Make of that what you will. The ones I do carry weigh a little less, cost a lot less, and work really well. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. We'll be looking at axes next week. And if you like this, please click like. If you're interested in the next video, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And share this. Again, the more we get around with these videos, the more good we can do. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one.